We already talked about types of a statistical data, how many types of data we are using in a statistic, constant, variable, type of a variable, um, sampling, advantages of sampling over the census. Okay, now we will discuss sampling procedure. The accuracy of our investigation depend on how representative is our sample. For this, the sample has to be a random sample, which is free from any deliberate or biased selection. Thus, the sample must be a proper representative of the population. A proper care must be taken to draw a sample from the population. To draw a sample, many procedures are developed. Some of these are discussed here. There are two types of sampling techniques. First, probability sampling method. The probability sampling method is the scientific method of selecting the sample according to some law of chance or a probability in which each unit in the population has some definite pre-assigned probability of being selected in the sample. The different type of probability sampling are where each unit has a equal chance of being selected. Sampling units have different probabilities of being selected. Probability of selection of a unit is proportional to the sample size. These are the different types of probability sampling. But some standard probability samplings are included simple random sampling, cluster sampling, systematic sampling, stratified random sampling, and the second type of sampling method is non-probability sampling method. In the non-probability sampling method, in which there is uh, no law of probability, it is the opposite of probability sampling method. Non-probability sampling or non-probability sampling depends on subjective judgment. The non-probability method of sampling is a process where probabilities cannot be assigned to units objectively. Hence, it becomes difficult to determine the reliability of the sample results in the term of probability. Non-probability sampling is well suited for exploratory research intended to generate new idea that will be systematically tested later. However, if the goal is to learn about a large population, it is imperative to avoid judgment of non-probabilistic sample in the survey research. Unlike probability sampling, under non-probability sampling, certain element of the population might have a zero chance of being picked. This is because we cannot accurately determine the probability of picking a given element, so we don't know whether the odds of picking that element are 0 or greater than 0. Non-probability sampling may not always be consequence of the sampler's ignorance of the total number of elements in the population, but may be a result of the sampler's bias in the way he chooses the sample by excluding some elements. Non-probability sampling methods include convenience sampling, judgmental or purposive sampling, snowball sampling, or quota sampling. We will discuss one by one. First, we discuss simple random sampling. A simple random sample is a subset of statistical population in which each member, you can say unit or a person of the subset has equal probability of being chosen in the sample. A simple random sample is meant to be an unbiased representation of a group. It is very important the chosen sample is always unbiased representative of the population. The principle of the simple random sampling is that every object has the same probability of being chosen. It is the very simplest and easiest way of obtaining a sample. It is the procedure of drawing a sample in such a way that every unit of a population has equal chance to include in the sample. In this procedure, the units are selected one by one. There are two types of procedure to select simple random sample. First, simple random sample without sampling. Sampling means it is a technique. Sampling without replacement. In this type of sampling, the units are drawn one by one in such a way that the unit selected will not be replaced again in the population before the next draw. Since the units are not replaced back, the same units will not be included in the sample more than one time. This is the most commonly used procedure of drawing a sample. The next, the simple random sampling with replacement. In this type of sampling, the units are drawn one by one in such a way that the unit selected will be again replaced in the population before the next draw. Thus, the same unit cannot be repeated in the sample more than one time. Means, in the simple random sampling, the repetition is allowed, but in the simple random sampling without repetition, there is no repetition of the units. One unit occur only one time. That is the difference between the simple random sampling and simple random sampling with replacement and simple random sampling without replacement. Note that in the both the procedure, units are selected at random for each draw. This can be done using by lottery system. For this, all the units of the population are numbered. For the example, here we numbered the population 1, 2, 3 up to 15. Okay, one by one we draw unit according one by one sorry. The numbers corresponding to each unit of the population are entered on a separate slip of a paper. After folding each slip, mix them into a container. For each draw, select a slip from the container. If the slip selected in the sample is again replaced back in the container before the next draw, we will have simple random sampling with replacement. If the slip is not replaced back in the container before the next draw, we will have simple random sampling without replacement. Some examples discuss here. In order to test average petrol consumption of a lot of motorcycle manufactured by a company. For this, we can use simple random sampling without replacement or simple random sampling with replacement. For the testing of a human blood, we can only use simple random sampling without replacement because the blood testing sorry to find next to find the average life of a bulb simple here we can use simple random sampling without replacement. To obtain average height of a student from a college, here again we can use simple random sampling without replacement. In the simple random sampling, the population should be homogeneous. If the population is not homogeneous, in that situation, we cannot use simple random sampling. Means note it down. For the simple random sampling method, the population should be homogeneous. Now, further, we move on stratified sampling. When the population is not homogeneous, simple random sampling is not effective because some parts of the population may be overrepresented and the some may be underrepresented. In such case, the population is divided into the number of groups which are homogeneous within themselves. Each of this subgroup is called strata, and the procedure of dividing the population into the parts is called as stratification. Stratification is done according to some characteristic which is closely related with the characters of a unit under study. After the stratification, a random sample is drawn from each stratum by using simple random sampling without replacement. All these units from the different strata constitute a random sample from the population. Such a sample is called as a stratified random sample. This is the example for the stratified random sampling. This is the very simple example to understand stratified random sampling. Here we taken different types of symbol because to show the non-homogeneous population. First, we convert into the homogeneous group. That is called stratum. Here we grouping all the symbol consider in a one block, consider in a one block having the same group, same symbol, and then we choose a random sample or we draw the random sample from each stratum by using simple random sampling. But here, that is very important, the population is non-homogeneous. First, we will convert into the homogeneous group and then we will use simple random sampling without replacement. This is a simple example of stratified sampling. To understand stratified sampling, we discuss some more example. For the example, if we want to estimate the average pocket money received by a student, the population consists of an income of a parents of a student. Since the income of a parent will not be a homogeneous population, the population is subdivided into the groups like a poor, middle, upper middle, and rich income group of a parents. From each group, we will draw a income group of, from each group, we will draw a sample using simple random sampling without replacement. The total number of units select from each group will be a required sample. Another example, to find the average income of an employee in a certain factory. Various categories such as manager, supervisor, clerk, workers can be taken as a strata. To estimate another example, to estimate the production of a defective articles produced in a factory, we can classify the population by taking strata as the production in the different shift. Also, to select a random sample of a student from a college, classes or faculties can be taken as a strata. To moving further, to systematic random sampling. In this method, the initial unit of a sample is selected at random from the initial stratum of the population, and the other units are selected at a certain regular interval from the population arranged in a systematic order like a numerical alphabetical or geographical order. For this, the size of a sample is determined first on some basis, and then the regular interval of the population is determined as k is equal to capital N upon small n, where capital N is the size of the population, k is the regular interval, small n size of a population. Having determined n and k, the initial unit of a sample will be taken at random. It is also called as random start. And the other unit will be selected at every kth unit of a population counting from the point of initial unit thus taken out from the sample. Here, there are persons, 10 persons are there. We have to select 5 persons and 5. 5 persons means 10 divided by 5. The regular interval will be 2. Hence, the every second person is selected in a sample. So, the second person is selected, then fourth person is selected, then sixth person is selected, eighth person is selected, and the 10th one is selected. This is called as systematic sampling. Remember that the first sample unit is selected at random. Then other sampling units are selected with the regular interval. Now we talked about cluster sampling. Sometimes the population consists of several groups which are convenient to use as a sampling units. These groups are called cluster. In cluster sampling, we considered cluster as a sampling unit and choose simple random sample of a cluster. Again, I am describe the cluster. Cluster means the number of persons or objects in a small or a closed group. When the sample is selected from a small or a closed group, it is called as a cluster sampling. In cluster sampling, the population is divided into the cluster and the random sample has been drawn either from all cluster or selected clusters. This cluster may be CT words, social units. The sampling of a cluster from the population is done by simple or stratified random sampling method. For the example, a researcher wants to study the problem of a rural farmers producing onion. He wants a sample of a 10% of a farmers from the villages in the district. He may select at random 10% of the villages in the district and then use as a sample for all the farmers producing onion. It is easier to test all the farmers in a few villages than to test a group of farmers scattered at a random throughout all the villages in the district. This is the picture diagram of a cluster sampling. The cluster sampling is useful when the basic sampling frame of all the elementary units is not available. It is very important if all the elements of the units is not available, then the cluster sampling is very useful. With the sampling fieldwork, cost is comparatively low. However, the efficiency of a cluster sampling is less as compared to sampling by the elements. Merits of a cluster samplings: if uh, it provides the significant cost, again it is the merit of a cluster sampling. Easier and more practicable, again it is the merit of a cluster sampling. The demerits of the cluster sampling: if the number of a cluster is very large, sometimes representativeness is affected. It is the demerit of a cluster sampling. If the number of units in the cluster is not same, accuracy in the result may be lowered. It is again a demerits of cluster sampling. This is the picture diagram of pictorial representation of probability sampling method. First, simple random sampling, then systematic sampling, third one, stratified random sampling, and the fourth one is cluster sampling. We can see here what is the difference between the simple random sampling and systematic sampling and stratified sampling and the cluster sampling. After discussing the cluster sampling, now one by one we will discuss non-probability sampling. First, briefly introduce the non-probability sampling. Already we have discussed in the types of sampling methods. The non-probability sampling or judgmental sampling depend on subjective judgment. The non-probability method of a sampling is a process where probabilities cannot be assigned to the units objectively, and hence it becomes difficult to determine the reliability of the sample result in the term of the probability. Non-probability sampling is well suited for exploratory research intended to generate new ideas that will be systematically tested later. However, if the goal is to learn about a large population, it is imperative to avoid the judgment of non-probabilistic sample in the survey research. Unlike probability sampling, under non-probability sampling, certain element of the population might have a zero chance of being picked. This is because we cannot accurately determine the probability of picking a given element, so we do not know whether the odds of picking the element are 0 or greater than 0. Non-probability sampling may not always be a consequence of the sampler's ignorance of the total number of elements in the population, but may be a result of the sampler's bias in the way he chooses the sample by excluding some elements. Now, one by one, we will discuss the non-probability sampling, or also it is known as non-random or non-representative sampling. First, we talked about the convenience sampling. A convenience sample is a type of non-probability sampling method where the sample is taken from a group of people easy to contact or to reach. For example, standing at a mall or grocery store and asking people to answer the question would be an example of convenience sampling. Again, to know the convenience sampling, again I repeat, the convenience sampling is known as accidental sampling. In this sampling, the researcher select the cases that are easily accessible to him. For the example, if one want to study the behavior of a nurse, the researcher stand outside the hospital and ask the opinion of those who come out of the hospital about the nurse's behavior. This method is adopted to survey quickly public opinion. Convenience sampling is quick and economical, but the representativeness is no significant in this sampling. The convenience sampling includes participants who are readily available and agree to participate in a study. Convenience sampling is often called accidental. This is a relatively easy choice of researchers when a group of people cannot be found to be survey or a question. For the example, the convenience sampling may be included going to a place of a business. Already we have discussed this example, or a restaurant, and the questioning or surveying those people who are available and being questioned. If the researcher is interested in what people think of hair cutting technique from a consumer perspective, the researcher may go to a hair salon and a barber shop and poll those patrons leaving the establishment after getting their hair cut. While convenience sampling includes only those ready and available, there is no excuse for sloppiness. The convenience sampling is very easy to carry out with few rules governing how the sample should be collected. This is the merit of convenience sampling. The relative cost and the time required to carry out a convenience sample are small in comparison to probability sampling techniques. These enable us to achieve the sample size you want in a relatively fast and inexpensively way. This is again a merit of a convenience sampling. The convenience sample may help you gathering useful data and information that would not have been possible using probability sampling technique. But some demerits of the convenience sampling is also there. The convenience sampling often suffers from bias from a number of biases. The convenience sampling means that the sample is unlikely to be representative of the population being studied. Now we talked about the another non-probability sampling, the judgmental sampling or purposive sampling. A purposive sampling, also referred to as a judgmental sample, is a type of non-probability sample. The main objective of a purposive sample is to produce a sample that can be logically assumed to be representative of the population. The researcher chooses the sample based on who they think would be appropriate for the study. In the purposive non-probability sample is also is sorry uh, in the purposive non-probability sample is breakdown into three different types: most similar or dissimilar cases, typical cases, and critical cases. Purposive sampling is selecting a sample on the basis of own knowledge of the population, its element, and the nature of research aims. That is, the population is non-randomly selected based on a particular characteristic. The individual characteristics are selected to answer necessary question about a certain matter or a product. The researcher is then able to select participants based on internal knowledge of said characteristic. This method is useful if the researcher want to study a small subset of a large population in which many members of the subsets are easily identified, but the enumeration of all is nearly impossible. The pilot study are well suited to this type of non-probability sampling method. Purposive non-probability sampling and the stratified probability sampling are very similar, but one note it down, there is a crucial difference between the two. The researchers are using purposive sampling do not select the respondent randomly from each group within the stratification categories. Whereas in the stratified random sampling includes random sampling at its core. All respondents, not only those randomly selected who possesses the characteristic, is included. Under the proper safeguard, it is very economical and time saving. It is the merit of judgmental sampling. In this, the knowledge of the composition of universe or a population ensure the proper representation of a cross sectional of various strata. It is again the merit of judgmental sampling. It is very useful when the certain units are important to be included to fulfill the requirement of investigation. It is practicable when the randomization is not possible. Then the judgmental sampling is useful. If the controlling safeguard is not effective, It is possibility of bias selection. It is the demerits of this sampling method. The calculation of sample error is not possible, so the hypothesis framed cannot be tested. It is again the demerits of purposive sampling. Now we talked about quota sampling. In a quota sampling, a population is first segmented into the mutually exclusive subgroups. Then judgment is used to select the subject or units from each segment based on a specified proportion. For example, an interviewer may be told to assemble 200 females and 300 males between the age of 45 and 60. This means that the individuals can put a demand on who they want to sample. This second step makes the technique non-probability sampling. The another example, interviewer or a researcher might be tempted to interview those people in the street who look most helpful, or may choose to use accidental sampling to question those closest to them to save time. The quota sampling is less costly, also a convenient method. It can be completed in a very short period of a time. However, it is not representative and it is biased sampling method. The quota sampling is similar to stratified sampling, only that in this case, after the population is divided into groups, the elements are then sampled from the group using the sampler's judgment. And as a consequence, the method loses any aspect of being random and can be extremely biased. The quota sampling is good method to use to non-randomly select groups based on a gender, age, race, and ethnicity, to name a few. In, a, in this sampling, the respondents are selected non-randomly on the basis of their known proportion to the population. It divides the population group into the subgroup and based on the proportion. In this sampling, the combination, it is the combination of stratified and purposive sampling, thus it make base use of stratification economically. It is the merit of quota sampling. The proper control brings more accuracy in result. It is again a merit of a quota sampling. It is very useful when the sample frame is available. Also, there are some demerits of the quota sampling. The control over the field work is difficult because of personal bias, hence affecting the result. It is the demerit of quota sampling. It is not based on random sampling. The sample error as well as standard error cannot be estimated in this sampling. This is the picture diagram of all the non-probability non-probability sampling method: convenience sample, quota sample, or purposive sample, and also the snowball sample. Now we will discuss the survey. The survey research, is a research method involving the use of standardizing the questionnaire or interview to collect the data about the people and their preferences, thoughts, and behavior in a systematic manner. This method has since become a very popular method for quantitative research in the social sciences. Survey are an excellent vehicle for measuring a wide variety of unobservable data, such as people's preference, for the example, political orientation, traits, example, self-esteem, social freedom, attitudes, the example is toward immigrants, the beliefs, the example is about a few law, the behavior, that example is smoking or drinking behavior, or factual information. In the factual information, we will include the income. The survey research is also identically suited for remotely collecting data about a population that is too large to observe directly. In the survey research, we can divide into two broad categories. First is questionnaire survey and the second is interview survey. There are some qualities and characteristics of good questionnaire should be known to the researcher. First one is need to know what need to be measured. हमें क्या measure करना है ये हमको मालूम होना चाहिए. Having a clear picture and understanding of what data need to be collected contribute to the quality of a data collection. The second one should know how to word and frame questions, and words should be neutral and should not be leading. Whatever your opinion may be, our opinion should be never be reflected in the question. This is done both intentionally or unintentionally, but should be taken care of. The next quality or a characteristic of the good questionnaire is emphasis on right word and phrase should be kept in a mind. The language should be clear so that the required data can be received. This also makes the question and the requirement of a survey easy to understand and thus help in getting a better response and answer. All the terms and the definition should be clear. Define and qualify the term. Means this is most essential when a technical survey or a field specific survey is being done. If you think that the audience being surveyed might not know about the some terms, then they must be defined to get any proper response. This will be increase the quality and the decrease the bounce rate or the number of questions which were left unanswered. Also, the sufficient or adequate alternatives should be provided. Means available option should have the most expected answers. Multiple questions in the question should be avoided in the questionnaire. One question should have one answer. If more than one question need to be asked, then it should be made a separate question to improve the clarity of a question. Also, the word requiring emphasis should be emphasized. It helps in making a point and question clear. In the characteristic of a good questionnaire included options not good, bad, fair, average should be quantified through the photographs or other means. These are very vague terms and interpretation of this varies from person to person. Means what do you mean by the bad? What do you mean by the good? Or what do you mean by the fair? You should, this option should be quantified. Unwanted assumption should be avoided. A survey is about getting factual data and the assumption should be avoided. You cannot use the unwanted assumptions. in the questionnaire. The next is interview survey. We discuss the role of interviewer. The interviewer has a complex and multifaceted role in an interview process, which include the following tasks. First, prepare for the interview. Since the interviewer is in the front of the data collection effort, the quality of a data collected depends heavily on how well the interviewer is trained to the job. The interviewer must be trained in the interview process and the survey method, and also be familiar with the purpose of study, how responses will be stored and used, and the sources of interviewer bias. She should also rehearses the time the interview prior to the formal study. Locate and enlist the cooperation of respondents, particularly in home survey, the interviewer must locate specific addresses and work around the respondents' schedule sometime at undesirable times, such as during weekends. They should also be like a salesperson selling the idea of participating in the study. The role of interviewer, it is very important. He or she should be motivate the respondents. It is very important. Respondent often fit the motivation of the interviewer. If the interviewer is disinterested or inattentive, the respondent won't be motivated to provide the useful or informative responses either. The interviewer must demonstrate the enthusiasm about the study, communicate the importance of the research to respondents, and be attentive to response need throughout the interview. Clarify all the confusions or concern by the interviewer. Interviewer must be able to think on their feet and address unanticipated concerns or objections raised by the respondents to the respondents' satisfaction. Additionally, they should ask probing questions as necessary, even if such questions are not in the script. Observe the quality of response. The interviewer is in the best position to judge the quality of information collected, and they supplement responses obtained using the personal observations of gesture or body language as appropriate. Thank you.